Ye in that club spirit. First and foremost, want to give our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh. Bashim Yahweh Bashim Kakwadash. Second, want to give double honor to the apostle of GMS at Rule of Well. And a peace, blessing, salutations to the whole faith elect. Uh, that consists of you so called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, West Indians. And this is Shukwa Kabral from GMS Virginia. And Lord's will you be edified. And let's see how the Spirit takes me on this one. I was on a YouTube channel browsing and listening to I think White Tea wake them up. And I advise to subscribe to that channel. He goes into how pretty much the entertainment, rap, club, etc. is fraudulent. It's pretty much not smart to pretty much be out there out and about, during these night times and nighttime segments, or however you want to say it. You really want to do your thing out in the daytime, and then by roughly sun goes down, it's best to be bringing it on in. So let me see. You got to understand the times that we're living in. Things are getting bad. A bunch of demonic people. Let me get this real quick. Got a couple of scriptures. Galatians 5. I'm going to start off with this one. Let me see what this says. Because we know, the times that we're living in, we're not to be, pretty much intermingling ourselves with this world. So, that clubbing spirit, you got to go to the club. You just got to put everything. You just got to be seen. I remember growing up, even in the 90s, the thing of, just being discreet was very much that was your thing. Don't put your business out there. Don't be trying to be on Front Street. Don't put your things on Front Street. Let let yourself know, either let your people that you're close to know what's going on, let family know. But things have changed. Esau has changed the mentality of these people. So I'm gonna start off with this. So Galatians 5:16. So I say, let the Holy Spirit guide your lives, then you won't be doing what your sinful nature craves. You gotta understand that whole message that Esau pushed: do as thou will. You can do what you want. America, land of the free, liberty, justice, and all that. Justice for all, freedom. You can do what you want. That's really much. Let me get this real quick. Let me get that. It leads to dysfunction. A place where there's no discipline or no structure breeds chaos. And this is what you're seeing today. Proverbs, I think 28, 25. Let me see what this says. Hold on. Not the one I want, but let me see what this says. Okay. I'm going to just read this real quick. So let me see. Proverbs 28 and 25. I think it's the other one. I'm going to read this one. Greed causes fighting. Trusting in the Lord leads to prosperity. Let me see. Highlighting that selfish. This is AI overview. Highlighting that selfish desire for more creates conflict. And we're living in that society. We're living in that environment, due to the media, the witchcraft, the sorcery, and that whole statement of democracy. So while placing faith and reliance in Yahweh Shah brings true success and well-being, and that's the one who lives the righteous life. So we understand, that whole Christianity belief, love everybody and don't judge. Well, we're seeing what it has breeded, has created a bunch of dysfunction, chaos and all hell, amongst our people. So it said, contrasting worldly ambition with divine provision. Let me see. Yeah, greed or selfish ambition leads to conflict, strife, and instability. Trusting in the Lord leads to prosperity, safety, and blessings. And this, and out of that, keywords is safety. It's like it says in Psalms, the first chapter, I believe 1 through 5. And let me see. I know I'm all over the place. Oh, let me go back. Hold on. To the one I really wanted. So 25 and 28. So it says, a person without self control, this is Proverbs 25 and 28. A person without self control is like a city with broken down walls, meaning someone lacking discipline or control over their spirit, passions, or actions leave themselves vulnerable to trouble, temptation, and spiritual attack. Much like an unfortified city is open to invasion. So, this verse highlights how a lack of inner restraint makes a person defenseless against internal weaknesses and external. And we understand this is Babylon the Great. You know, what's the push? Wickedness and evil. Scripture says, "Woe to them that call evil good." And Esau has pretty much made evil look very, very, very good, and everything that looked righteousness very, very grievous. So he has turned things upside down, and external negative influences leaving them exposed and easily overcome. So that's what happens when somebody has no control. So unprotected, like a city's wall protects its inhabitants, self control acts as a spiritual defense. Vulnerable, without these walls, a person is easily swayed by pride, anger, temptation, and sin, making them susceptible to the enemy and ruin. Who's the enemy? Spiritual demon Satan, ultimately, who? The so called white man. Because we understand he runs this system and is very satanic. It's contrary of righteousness. Internal chaos. It signifies a lack of command over one's own emotions, impulses, and behavior, leaving one open to spiritual and personal destruction. So this is all the mentality of these people here in Babylon the Great, and and also our people that has intermingled themselves with idols, so called Latinos and Hispanics. Um, the the brother the Zaquan in North Carolina, uh, Elder damn, forgot the brother name, Elder Kabad, in the North Carolina Raleigh camp. I believe his page is GMS Keep Pushing. Did a lovely video about Cuba. One thing I know for sure, those idols which our people have joined themselves to. There's a lot of Santeria, Ocean, and I forgot the names of those fucking idols. A lot of my people are into them. They're about to be left very confounded. When Esau pretty much hits Cuba even harder. You understand that's what's going on in this present day of time. The Lord is using the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, Amalek, to pretty much just throw down all the idols of these nations. That's why you got to ask yourself, where's Allah? Is Allah real? What is he sleeping? What does he need to be summoned? Because look at what's going on with the so-called Arabs and the other people that believe that are Muslim. Where's your help? You got internal conflict, etc. These people are not. The belief of Allah is fading and fading very fast. And one thing for certain, we understand the Bible talks about how Esau is going to wreak havoc and prevail because he knows, but he has nothing but a short time. So he's wreaking havoc on all these people and all the nations, but they don't see, because what? Their gods have not forewarned them to what's to come. But the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites, whom we serve a living power, and the Most High name is Yahweh, and the Son's name is Yahweh Shah. So going back, I know I'm all over the place. So Galatians 5:16, this is in the NLT. So I say, let the Holy Spirit guide your lives, then you won't be doing what your sinful nature craves. The sinful nature wants to do evil, which is just the opposite of what the Spirit wants. And the Spirit gives us desires that are the opposite of what the sinful nature desires. These two forces are constantly fighting each other, so you are not free to carry out your good intentions. But when you are directed by the Spirit, you are not under obligation to the law of Moses. Because ultimately, we understand that the law was a foreshadow of things was to come. It's a basically it was to help us and guide us, but ultimately it wasn't. Ultimately, the how you say the thing that's going to save us, our safe, the thing that's going to save us is our faith in Yahweh Shah. Because one thing for certain, what had happened about the law, it pretty much got into repetition and not. It got more so into about repetition and not so about really the honor and reverence and fear and knowing Yahweh Shah. So basically, people would sin and then already have their sacrifice there ready, or their sacrifice wasn't sincere. So, verse 19, when you follow desires of your sinful nature, the results are very clear: sexual immorality, impurity, lust for the pleasures, and man, oh man, the society we live in, this is full of it. I work amongst construction, and I don't do construction, but I work around them, and I just hear the talk, and it's vexing, very vexing, and it's crazy. And 9 times out of 10, the average person you come across, they're just through. They're done for. They're finished. Their mental is just is seared with wickedness. So lustful pleasures, and one thing for certain, Esau destroyed the men by what? Indulging in pleasure. Majority, these so-called American men, they're not men. No, the only thing these men want here in America and they yearn for is pleasure. They don't really, vouch for anything about anything that's worthy, or anything about honor or respect or anything sacred. 20, idolatry, sorcery, hostility, quarreling, jealousy, outburst of anger, selfish ambition, dissension, and division. And this is why, I labeled this, are ye in that club in spirit, you know? And that's one thing for certain too, If you're in this thing, you know about this truth, you going to clubs, that should be a no-no. If I'm not going to say, going to a eatery or getting a bite to eat at a lounge, I'm not saying that's wicked and all, but I would do that thing in the brink of the day, or how you say, the early time of the dark of the night, and you get your ass up out of there when it's getting roughly around what, the 11 and 12, 10 and 10ish, 9, 10ish, whatever. Yeah, I would start looking towards that door and get the hell up out of there, because best believe niggas, or deranged. I mean, just look at the society we're living in now, and it's not ironic, when you go out to these places, these people are enraged. People are ready to crash out, and this is why, when you go to these clubs, these women are full of shit, and the men are full of shit, and this is why shootouts happen, fights break out, and a lot of people just don't make it home. Everybody is egotistical, etc. And I also have that up in ChatGPT as well. So 21, envy, drunkenness, wild parties, and other sins like these. Let me tell you again, as I have before, that everyone living like that, living that sort of life, will not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. So You got to understand, this is the spirit of this world. You got to remember what Romans the 12th chapter. Come out of this world. Because what is wicked. Women are just done for. You go to the gym. These people are just through. It's not more. It's not more so about getting healthy and working out, and it's more so just your a woman is basically what I'm saying is these girls are staying in shape so they can flaunt their bodies all over the world and get opportunities and do wickedness. And these men are doing certain things so they can be open, so doors can open for them, so they can indulge in pleasure. Nothing righteousness comes. The righteousness is not the outcome. The majority of these things that people indulge in here in America. Verse 22, but the Holy Spirit produces this kind of fruit in our lives. It says love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no law against these things, because this ultimately, when you're on the right path, and if you're, serving the Lord, staying in the Spirit, roughly you don't have nothing to worry about because what, you're on the right path. You're doing a good job. But here it is, these people that's doing prior, wickedness, etc. They're the ones that had to be what? They got to be judged by the law because they're breaking it day by day. It's like the scripture says, Sirach, I believe the fifth chapter. Don't add sin upon sin, and don't think that you're too good that the Lord can touch you. You know, ever since from the beginning of the clubbing days, etc. It's been fights, shootouts, uh, etc. I'm gonna go to this. So why do I ask ChatGPT? Why do fights and shootouts happen in the club? I said fights and shootouts in clubs don't usually happen because of one single reason. And they're almost always result of several risk factors stacking up at the same time. The most common ones are alcohol and drugs. Yeah, and when these people get that alcohol and drugs in them, let me see. Let me see something. So Proverbs 20 and 1, wine is a maca, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not. Especially the alcohol that's served in these what you would call it, in these clubs, in these outlets. Very bottom shelf. That bottom shelf shit will cause you to get headaches. Then serving it with Red Bull, they're serving it with sugary drinks. So again, you're drinking this shit like Kool-Aid, and it has alcohol, bottom shelf alcohol. And even if you're drinking top shelf and you're drinking that shit with that Kool-Aid and that Red Bull, that shit is bound to do what? Provoke spirits inside of you. And, got certain places that's called wine and spirits. And if your inner self is not in good, going back to that self control, what will happen? All that evil and wickedness that's inside of you, it will come out. So one, alcohol and drugs, especially doing that cocaine, that fent, etc. Alcohol lowers inhibitions and impairs judgment. And oh yeah, Salaki, hey, Yabashim Shabashim Kakada Shalom, let me start it again, Salaki. Yabashim Shabashim Kakadash Brakatam to you brothers that's tuning in. So it says and impairs judgment. Small issues bumping into someone, staring, and a spilled drink can feel like major disrespect. Drugs can increase aggression, paranoia, or impulsivity. And again, a lot of these people in society, you got to remember, everybody's oppressed. Not a lot of people are doing too good. Yeah, I understand America is spoiled, and that's another thing. We're living around a bunch of spoiled babies, a bunch of people that are adults, but they think like fucking children. They think like kids. So the littlest thing, just in the disrespect is on another level in these days. People actually believe that they can do what they want, they can say what they want, and they can do what they want to you, or to an environment, and shouldn't be no uh, consequences. This is the world we're living in. So again, this is very wise that if you came from the world and all you did was club and go out, hang out in a merry night, well, there's more shit that you can do, my man. Or if you're a woman tuning in, there's a whole lot more shit that you can do. Two, ego, pride, and disrespect. Clubs are high status environments. So, everybody thinks they're a big shot. Everybody thinks they're a celebrity. Everybody thinks they're somebody that they're not. Everybody's this big man. All these chicks are some fucking divas. They're models and, even fat bitches. The fat girls, the bald headed, the nasty, whatever, these sluts and whores, they all think they're celebrities. And these little punk ass dudes that's in there, they think they're tough guys, little big men. But this is the environment. People dress up, compete for attention. This is number two. Yeah, they compete for attention and protect their image. And these people don't even know who the fuck they are. They're lost. So it's a fake image. It's a character they put on. So you got to remember, So when you out there clubbing and you're out there and the Friday, the Saturdays, the Wednesday, really, I think the club life really starts cracking open. It's like Wednesdays and Sunday because you got a lot of spots. What is it? Drink spots, wine spots, lounges, etc. That start to open up, and you got a lot of places that have music, whatever, and bands. You know, now those are all right, a lot of bands, but you get what I'm saying. So it says perceived disrespect, looks, words, social media beef carried into real life can trigger confrontations. And you got to remember too, these women, they're half naked, they're fronting, they're alluring, what is it? They're manipulating, they're using seductory, if I'm saying it correctly, but it's all a fraud. It's all an act. They're trying to catch men. They're preying on men. That's another thing. A bunch of predators are in there. You know, some people feel pressure to not back down, especially in front of friends. Everybody's, this whole group together. Everybody's a tough guy or a tough chick. Even girls. These girls literally go out and they, say to themselves, "Oh, I can fight men. I can beat up a man." They get that lick up in them. They get that fent, whatever the hell they do. A lot of these bitches love cocaine too. They get them drugs in them. They out and about. They dolled, somewhat dolled up. They got the fake up. Then what do? They start feeling themselves. Three, crowded, high stress environment. Loud music, tight spaces, heat, heat, and long lines raise stress levels. Miscommunication is common because people can't hear each other. Yeah. And that's another thing too. The music be loud as hell, you know. And just really think about it, man. How many people that met in clubs and still rocking today? 9 out of 10. Nothing comes from that environment. If you meet somebody, you want to meet them just out and about. Maybe into some nature or something like that. But you trying to meet a chick, meet your wife at a club or whatever the notion is today is crazy. Accidental contact happens constantly. Yeah, you bump into each other. It's hot. You try to talk to a shorty and the music loud. She think you're disrespecting her because you're yelling at her. So she's in her feelings and she might throw a drink at you. You know, it's just a mess up, man. And then the music they play is no good. The music sucks today. And for poor conflict management. So some individual lack skills to de-escalate situations. Security or staff may intervene too late or escalate things by handling it poorly. Friends sometimes jump in instead of calming things down, turning one argument into a group fight. Because you got to remember, everybody's tough. Everybody's tough. Number five, gang or personal disputes. Ongoing conflicts don't disappear just because people are in a club. A chance encounter can turn a personal or territorial dispute to violence, and that's I remember house parties were big back in the day, but what happened to those house parties? You had a lot of ongoing conflicts, a lot of beef that was going on in neighborhoods or etc. or some other outside play. People would know about it, learn about it. They would come in, pop up, and what would happen? A shootout. Somebody gets sent to the spirit world. A chance encounter can turn into a personal or territorial dispute into violence. And that's what happened to a lot of those house parties. So if people ask you, "Oh man, whatever happened to the old house parties?" Well, this is what happened because a lot of gang or personal disputes happen. Shootouts are often tied to people bringing weapons due to fear, reputation, or intent to retaliate. And that's what happened in them house parties, or even in these clubs. A lot of these clubs are shutting down. Why? Because high risk. You know, and another thing too, a lot of these women, feminism has killed the club life. And to be honest with you, you should be happy because that club shit was whack and the shit was wicked. We all know, if you wanted a little hot fast thing, hey, you go to the club. But all jokes aside, that's not righteous. That's why all these girls now have these kids, and there's no father in the house because a club brought y'all together. So what's being done in these clubs? Basically, this what I'm reading, and here it is. And even if y'all did, you get a chick, whatever, you know, it's not genuine. She's there because deep down inside she has issues. You know, not trying to tell the dudes there he has issues or he's just looking to crack something, crack some cheeks. And like I said, it's not a healthy environment. 6 weak security and policies, inadequate screening at the door, overcrowded, and I used to bounce. I bounced for a long time. I wouldn't do it again, not by far. And it's another thing too. They don't even want security to be real security anymore. Due to insurance policies and rate money, etc. It's just let the police do it. Let the police fucking let police fucking just police the door, police the club. It's a damn shame. That's what I'm saying. For club owners and these places to hire them and hire great security, it costs a lot of money. So it just shows you it's not the thing to do. Stupid. So overcrowding or letting highly intoxicated people stay, lack of clear protocols for removing trouble early. Seven, social media and clout culture. That's what we live in today. These girls come in a group. They're not. Their whole thing is to shun and shame men and make men look stupid and small. So what do you do? So these are arguments that start online spill into real life. And again, these girls come. They're not worried about. They got their little toys when they go home, their little vibrators, and they got their little phones and they're just chasing clout, attention, and then they may get a God number, but nothing goes from it. So some people feel pressure to perform toughness for reputation or attention. So let's see. That's pretty much it. How long I've been up? We're about to close this thing down. Let me see something. So Glacier 1 and 10 for do I now persuade men or Yahweh Bashan Shah, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Yahweh Shah. And this world is just a bunch of men pleasers, and you know, everybody trying to shit on everybody and please everybody, and you know, make themselves look like something that they're not. It's fraudulent. Everything, everybody's a character, you know. So let me get this real quick. 1 Corinthians 6, 9, and 10. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh, but shall be not deceived, neither fornicators, neither idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate. So yeah, that's another thing too. Oh man, club gay, man. Club gay as hell, man. This shit is gay. Let me just say it like that. A bunch of lesbians come up in there. A lot of Mo men be up in there, and it's no shame. You got a lot of girls that come up in there that have men, husbands, and they're just lurking. You got a lot of men that worship different ideologies, philosophies, and they're bringing that to the club. You got people that's just fornicated. They're just all into this society. They're tossed to and fro. No abusing themselves with mankind, nor thieves. And that's another thing. You got men that'll come up in there and they're looking to scam, looking to get over. Cause bet you got niggas that are, you know, they might beat you up because you're fly. You got a watch on or whatever. No drunkards, no revilers, no extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of Yahweh Shah. And this is the people of this world. So here it is. You're putting yourself in an environment that's not safe. That's not, you're putting yourself in harm's way, in grave danger. Matthew 5:16, let your light shine, so shine before men. Now, how are you gonna let your light shine before niggas that's dark? It just doesn't make sense. They're not gonna even understand that light that's shining. They're gonna cover their eyes, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Well, niggas in the club ain't doing that. They love the darkness. They're banging. What do you say? You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. That's these niggas. That's the 2/3. You know? And I will show you where I made my home. That's the 2/3, man. He said, then I will break you. Let me see. That's pretty much. I'm gonna go wrap this thing up. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this thing out. Lord's will, you was edified with that. I'm gonna say shalom.